I was getting sick almost once a month. I have not gotten sick since we started working together. And when I say that, I mean I have not had a single day of feeling under the weather. Been at least a couple of years where I would just have inexplicable bouts of digestive issues with certain food and gas, brain fog, where I was just sort of waking up groggy, almost worn out, even though I'd gotten a pretty good amount of sleep the night before. Brain fog went away actually almost within a week. The bloating that I would get after eating some foods started to subside within a couple of weeks. I would wake up and I couldn't really function without just running to get a cup of coffee. It wasn't like a fatigue of like lack of sleep. I mean, I didn't know what else to call it until you started using brain fog, but my brain felt foggy. I just sort of I wasn't like clarity when I woke up. I wake up with more energy. I don't have brain fog. I just don't feel that sort of like grogginess that would sort of hang over me for quite some time in the morning. I wake up energetic.
Can you quickly introduce the viewers who you are, what you do, etc.?
Hey, everybody. Yeah, thank you very much for having me. So, yeah, my name's Philippe Nassif. I'm based here in the United States in Washington, D.C., and I work for a non-governmental organization here in D.C.
Nice. Okay, so can you give like a 1,000-foot overview of your health and the symptoms that you were dealing with before we started to work together?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the main points are that I've always been a pretty active individual. I've been in a new weightlifting program for about the past year, but I've been consistently training in Muay Thai for over 15 years now, and then Jiu-Jitsu for a few years as well. So in terms of combat sports, I've been pretty active in that regard. But I have been suffering from a lot of repeated colds over the past few years. Once I became a dad to a little toddler now, and I really was trying to figure out how to kind of mitigate those symptoms and just avoid them entirely. So that was one of the things I was seeking some help with. In addition to a few digestive issues and other, issues related to my ability to digest certain foods, process certain foods, et cetera, et cetera. So, kind of dealing with some dietary issues plus some of the wear and tear from being quite active, were some of the things that I was really looking to get help with.
Okay, so let's start with getting cold frequently. How often before starting to work together were you getting sick?
I was getting sick almost once a month.
Oof.
So it was pretty frequent. Sometimes it was a minor cold for a few days, but other times it was upwards of a week plus. So it was pretty problematic because, that really wears you down and it messes with your sleep, it messes with your fitness, it messes with everything. So it was a problem.
And we've been working together for 3 months. When was the last time you got sick?
I have not gotten sick since we started working together. So
Nice.
that is something that I'm very happy to report.
Nice. Nice. Okay.
And when I say that, I mean I have not had a single day of feeling under the weather. Um, Minor, major issues, none. And I think that's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, that's significant. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And can you dive a bit deeper regarding the gut issues, the bloating, the gas, the brain fog that you were experiencing before? And can you also tie that to the now, how you're currently feeling?
Yeah, so I've been lactose intolerant for a very long time. But I started to develop, I'm not sure when, it's been at least a couple of years where I would just have inexplicable bouts of digestive issues with certain food and gas. Excuse me. And sort of a best described as how you describe it as brain fog, where I was just sort of waking up groggy, almost worn out, even though I'd gotten a pretty good amount of sleep the night before. Nothing had really sort of changed in my day-to-day activities, yet I was starting to feel this way. That was largely connected sometimes to uh, the way I was processing foods, I think. I'm not quite sure. I tried cutting things out of my diet and moving things around, trying different things, and nothing really changed. And so, when I came to you, this was one of the things that I wanted to tackle was frequent illness and allergies, plus this digestive issues that I was having. And I'm happy to report that those have largely been mitigated. The brain fog went away actually almost within a week of starting to work together when I started to make some of the adjustments that you recommended. And I've not had any issues with that ever since. So that's really, really good. And the bloating that I would get after eating some foods started to subside within a couple of weeks at most. And I really haven't had any issues with that either, despite actually adding more things to my diet, not taking things away, which was really good. So, two really big changes there as well.
And you mentioned that you often woke up feeling worn out, even though you had a full night of sleep. Can you zoom in on that a bit?
Yeah, I would wake up and I couldn't really function without just running to get a cup of coffee. I felt just it wasn't like a fatigue of like lack of sleep. It was just I mean, I didn't know what else to call it until you started using brain fog, but my brain felt foggy, I just sort of I wasn't like clarity when I woke up. And I needed to get caffeine. And I would have to get a cup of coffee to just get functioning, and then a second cup of coffee to actually get going and out of the house and to work. Um, and that was before I really ate anything, for example. I just had to have that coffee. And it didn't entirely get rid of the brain fog. It just helped me push past it. It was pretty annoying after a while because I don't like waking up feeling that way. My body just felt tired, but it wasn't tired from physical activity. It just felt like I didn't really get maybe the deep sleep that I needed to get the night before, even though the metrics showed that I did. Again, this was something that we talked at length about, and you checked in with me pretty frequently on. And I actually saw some pretty quick improvements once I started making some of these, daily adjustments to how cold my room is when I sleep at night, or how much light I was actually getting in the room, which was more than I realized, or my screen time the night before seemed to really impact my ability to really, calm down and go to sleep and actually fall asleep, and all the other changes that you recommended. So, but that was what I was dealing with, and it was quite problematic actually.
Got it. And what about right now? You said that there are some improvements for now, but can you explain them?
Yeah, so look, I wake up in the morning. I don't need to have coffee for the first hour I'm awake. And sometimes I forget I can't say I forget to have coffee, period. I definitely end up having it, but I don't prioritize it in the morning like I do anymore. And like I used to do. And that's a really big change. I just didn't really think that that was something um, that I would say, that I would verbalize that I don't need my coffee within the first 10 minutes of waking up. In all seriousness, I wake up with um, more energy. I don't have brain fog. That's the biggest thing that has changed. I just don't feel that sort of like grogginess that would sort of hang over me for quite some time in the morning. I wake up energetic. I get right to making myself my breakfast in the morning after I go through, some of the wellness routine that you've helped me prep for every morning. And I really actually function much more quickly in the morning and kind of get out more quickly, and I'm just much more efficient with my time. And so physically sort of feel rejuvenated in the morning, which is how you would hope to wake up.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice. And let's zoom in a bit, if you don't mind, of course, regarding the libido and the morning wood. I believe before we started to work together, it was already pretty good, but there were
right.
some changes there. Could you elaborate?
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, one of the things that has been, you know, good with me since before we started working together, is I never really had much of a libido issue, and I never really felt like that was an issue, period. And I woke up with morning wood pretty frequently, and didn't really see there was an issue there compared to like the brain fog and some of the other issues. What was really interesting is how much harder and firmer my morning would was and more long lasting once we started working together after I'd say about a month into the protocol. And I don't think I entirely registered that it had improved significantly until, well, my partner mentioned something to me, my wife, and then I myself was like, wait a minute, this is pretty different than before, and I'm not sure why. Like, I'm not sure if it was the clarity that came after the brain fog lifted and just sort of feeling more rejuvenated, if all of it was sort of connected. It was almost like my body sort of had a reboot where I woke up in the morning the way it needed to wake up, the way it always wanted to, but couldn't for a while. That's kind of how I view it, if that makes any sense. But that was a pretty significant change to wake up, that much harder and, lasting longer just in the morning, which was sort of surprising.
Yeah.
At the age of 40.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense. So, can you walk me through the difference that the brain fog, the bloating, the gas, the morning energy, the libido, and not getting sick? What type of change that have has given you on your day-to-day life?
Yeah. So, multiple things. First, I think waking up invigorated every morning with a significant erection, um, feeling clear-minded, going through the routine that I now do every day, eating the foods that I eat, I just feel a lot more confident. I feel better in my own skin. And, this is something that I wasn't necessarily seeking initially when I, came to you, but it's a really great side effect of this protocol because, I work in a field with a lot of people who really are assertive and dominant, and you have to match that or exceed it. I don't think I really lacked in that uh, those abilities before we worked together, but now I do feel like I shine a lot brighter in those abilities after the fact. So it sort of changed my mental outlook on myself, how I show up in the workplace, how I show up with other men, in my relationship. And I didn't really know that I needed to have, again, that sort of reboot. But that was a really nice byproduct of this kind of system that's been developed. And, it takes work. You've got to follow it. You have to make sure you're doing it correctly and paying attention. Um, but the changes were actually not that difficult to implement once I was consistent. But that's a pretty big change in my life. I would very, very confidently tell you that would not have happened, I don't think, had I not started to go through some of these physical changes that started happening as I started following the protocol.
And what does that upgraded self-image, to call it like that, what does that allow you to do within your work, but also within your personal life?
I think it impacts everything. I don't think I really can put a clear metric on it, except to say that it has sort of supercharged me in my personal life. Okay. I think knowing that I wake up that invigorated every morning and I go to bed ready to sleep, um, but also invigorated when I want to be with my wife. Um, I think that going to work, having that sort of, you know, like big ball feeling, of being with other people in a boardroom and having these, tough conversations on how the organization is going and how the work is going to impact people's lives. This is the kind of thing that I really need to have in my career and in my personal life. And I don't think I realized that I could level up any more than I already was until I start to actually see that leveling up happen, if that makes sense. So when I start to feel differently about myself and see myself differently, literally, uh, it sort of impacted the way I carried myself, and how I communicated with people and everything. And I think that's something that's really important for people who may not even realize they're they have even more potential within them than they are currently are expressing. And so that's one thing that I think has been a really, really nice byproduct of this entire system.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
After we did the blood test, you got the protocol, we went through the results, etc. How did you apply all the action items that I gave to you? How was it? Was it difficult for you? Was it kind of easy to do? How was your overall experiencing regarding implementing the protocol?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I think that um, uh, educating myself on the kind of supplements I need to take, really understanding what I was actually lacking in nutrients and sort of vitamins and everything the blood work told me early on. And then sort of making sure I bought all of those things. I didn't have too many things I actually had to purchase, which was actually kind of nice. I was worried that I'd have to have some sort of huge grocery haul of pills that I would be taking every day. That wasn't really the case. It's actually interesting because I think dialing in my sleep, changing my sleep environment, eating some of the foods that you recommended, were all things that I was already spending money on. I just needed to do a better job of where I spent my money, if that makes sense, and actually disciplining myself and educating myself on what changes I can do on my own easily. So all of that stuff, once I understood, and again, I'll use that word educating, one of the things I came to very firmly and said, I need to be smarter about this stuff. I need to learn exactly why, eating raw meat has this effect on my testosterone, why my sleep, even though it looked like I had 7 or 8 hours, didn't feel like I had 7 or 8 hours, why the Wi-Fi router in the room, could impact all kinds of biomarkers for the male body or a human body. So, once I understood all of that and really sort of followed the instructionals that you gave and the videos and the reading materials, it was really easy because then it was just tweaking these things that actually I could tweak and change that were in my immediate environment. And so, all in all, once you spend some time just sort of understanding the blood results and, talking with you about what this actually means and how it translates into the real world, it was actually quite easy to make some of these changes, I think.
And do you feel like we provided enough education and learning material for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you've got a lot of information that you've collected and amassed and put out there. And so I think that that was very much within my reach within the system. Absolutely.
Okay. And one of the last questions, but what do you feel was the most valuable for you over those 3 months of working together?
The most valuable thing for me is realizing um, how much hormone disruptors and how much um, I guess poisons exist in the modern world, but actually how much opportunity there is to change or mitigate or prevent any of these things from really impacting your health and well-being. Okay. So, again, a lot of the simple changes that I made seem to have almost an immediate impact in how I was feeling, which told me that um, had I learned earlier about temperature in my room, about certain foods making me feel a certain way just because of the blood work telling me that this is what I already had plenty of, but here's what I was lacking. And once we started to like use that data-driven approach that you use and the science behind it all, um, it made a big difference really quickly. And so I think that it just shows that there's a lot that could change rather quickly for somebody if they actually are educated and have the right guidance given to them. It's kind of hard to figure out on your own. And so that's why, I sought to get some help, right, from somebody who actually spends time learning this stuff. Okay. And so, I think that that was the biggest change for me. It was really understanding how many things I'm surrounded by that impact my health, plus some of the choices that I make on a daily basis. And so I think that's the biggest takeaway.
Got it.
Yeah.
Nice. Do you feel like there is anything else that is important to share with the audience?
I think that if people are actually serious about um, studying their body, their capabilities, leveling up. For someone, again, someone like me who was already pretty athletic and fit, even for now, I guess, approaching or in middle age, um, who already has a kid, who's married, who's really busy. uh, I could have given myself a lot of excuses not to sort of jump in and learn and see if there's anything I could do differently to change some of the brain fog. I made excuses that I was overworked or like needed a vacation, which maybe that's true, but like these were actual things that were a little more serious in terms of my surroundings and my environment that needed to be changed. And I just would never have understood that had I not gone through with this program. I really would never have understood it. And so, for people who are on the fence about making some changes to physical ailments they've dealt with for a long time that nobody seems to be able to give a solution and help them, I highly recommend that they at least give this a shot, and get your blood work done and learn the protocol and go through it and see the kind of changes that it could make. Because there are physical changes that I've described that I saw right away that I still am dealing with positive changes. And I think that that would have never happened had I not decided to just, take a dive into this space and figure it out. And so that's something that I really do like to preach to people now, and I think people should really consider.